It's a freestyle, man.
Yo, the
Oh
fellas
man.
is in the house. Ain't got no time for the. What's up, man?
Hey,
What's up,
welcome, welcome,
fellas?
welcome. What's going on? Welcome to Just Our Thoughts, our live broadcast, our live podcast with the fellas. Just Our Thoughts with the fellas, where we do current events, trending topics, local and national news. Today we have something special for you guys. Dr. Schubert Perotte, who will be joining us, talking about some health concerns, some diabetes. You know, if you can bring your moms, bring your sons, wives, bring your husbands, sisters, bring your uncles to our show to join us to learn a lot more about what's going on in the healthcare system, to learn about your body, to not be afraid to go to the doctor. So, Dr. Schubert Perotte will be joining us a little bit later
Yes, sir.
on today. So right now, though, we will touch on some current topics, in which is really the national news. And y'all boy, 45, you know,
Don't
That ain't
call
my
him my
boy.
boy.
That ain't my
that's
Don't call
boy.
him my boy.
that's
He
not
not
my
my
Keith.
boy.
homie. He not
Hey,
my
Keith, that ain't
homie.
my boy, Keith.
Yo,
Yeah, nah, you
he want
know,
to stand by on the homies. He ain't my boy.
Obama's my boy.
that's my
Obama.
man right there. So last week we had the fiasco that went down last week with the presidential debate. I know certainly we wanted to touch on that, as well as 45 testing positive. You know, and actually coming home today, leaving the hospital today. So, you know, those are some of the things. And I just wanted to get your thoughts on that, fellas, on 45, the debate with Joe Biden. Give me your thoughts on that. What you got for me?
Ah, man, where shall we begin?
It
Where
was a
shall we
fiasco.
begin?
It
It
was
was
horrible.
Jake Tapper on CNN called it a hot mess in a trash dumpster on a runaway train car, something like that.
Hmm.
He called it a hot mess, man, and it was only a hot mess because Trump was just a bully, um, being over talking Joe Biden. His purpose, I think, was really to just be a disruptor to Joe Biden. He didn't lay out any vision. He didn't lay out any plan. Joe wanted to lay out a plan for the economy, lay out a plan for the COVID virus, lay out a plan for the economy, but just trying to get over the degrading insults that Trump was throwing out. I mean, from attacking his family, to talking about the drug use by Hunter Biden. You know what I'm saying? He just took it real low, and it wasn't a good sight on a global scale for everyone to see the current leader just not respect this whole presidential debate process.
Right.
He took
Right.
it to new lows.
He
Right.
did. He did. But you know what? I was actually impressed with my main man, Sleepy Joe, with his performance, man. You know, you know,
He stayed
Joe.
awake.
Yeah, listen,
Yeah.
Joe is so laid back, man. But I saw how Trump was able to pull some of that fire out of him, during that debate. And I just like you said, Katie, it was wrong, man, and disheartening to see him go after his family, man. I mean, Joe, he hit Joe kind of low. And I think that's what made Joe kind of really go hard. And Joe called him a clown. Did you see that part?
Yeah. He straight
Yeah.
called him a
Yeah.
clown.
He
Yeah.
told him to shut up too.
Yeah.
He told him to shut up. But
Yeah.
you can't get drawn into that type of
You can't.
that style of debate. You can't. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? And Joe tried his best,
He did,
but
man.
I think when he came at family like he did, Joe could have went in on Trump's
Mm.
family. He could have went in on Kushner, the son-in-law, because all they're doing is using the White House to get foreign money, to get these different deals, in Ukraine, Russia, all these different foreign. They're using the White House and the backdoor channels to still make a profit. They're making a profit on the Trump hotels and everything, and that's the family. He could have went in, but I'll say he took a little bit of a high road and stayed away from family,
He did.
and tried to redirect. Every time Trump did come at him with some sideways stuff, he would look at the camera. He would say, "I'm talking to you, the American people."
Right.
That was smart right there.
And that was good.
But what this whole thing kind of reminds me of, y'all know me, I love my old shows, but I don't know if y'all remember that episode of Good Times where they had the young man running for alderman against Alderman Davis. And
yes.
And basically, the young kid, he wanted to debate the topics, but Alderman Davis wanted to turn it into the dozens. And it's like now, it's like now all his people are looking for that type of fire instead of actually focusing on the issues and debating that.
Yeah.
But yet to see a bully, that's all they want to see is him attack Biden for his character, his family, and anything else associated with him, instead of actually saying, this is what I'm going to do, and this is how I'm going to make things better.
Right.
In which, and he didn't say it then, but some of his things, his commercials and everything else said, yeah, I'm going to make, the economy better, this and that. But isn't this your economy, so-called economy now?
Right.
What I mean? Everything that's going on is because of your time in office and not anybody else's.
Right.
But yet, and yet his people, his fan, and that's what it is. It's a fan base.
Yeah.
Are jumping on board to this. Oh yeah. Talk about his dead son, and talk about his son that was on drugs, and talk about everything else. That's not the issue. That's fun. Everybody, and like Joe said, hey man, everybody had problems. Everybody in somebody's family had drug issues.
So true.
Let's not go there. Let's not go there. Let's turn to the camera. I want to talk to you guys and say, this is what I want to do for you.
Yeah.
And I give them props for doing that. But it's sad that now that we are actually falling into the, well, I ain't gonna say we, but society as a whole is falling into the trap of nothing but celebrity, and that's what they want. Like, celebrity doesn't do anything. Your 15 minutes of fame or your 15 minutes plus doesn't run a country.
Yeah, I thought Joe on the flip side. I thought he could have. There's no way that Joe's party didn't expect Trump to come at him in the way that he did. So I thought Joe could have held it a little better than what he still did. I thought Joe could have, had a little more composure. I thought he did have composure. I don't want to take that away from him, but the direction that Trump is coming. He's not fully answering questions. So I thought Joe could have been even better prepared during those times. And I'm certain it's frustrating. I'm trying to have a debate with 45, but at the same time, I think he could have been. We talking about potentially the leader of the free world, and I thought he could have been, even more prepared with an expectation of what Trump was going to bring to the table in terms of his attack, his style. So those are some of the things that stood out for me. I did see Governor, our former New Jersey Governor Christie. Christie. Christie makes
positive.
I can't hear you, KD. Say again, Evie?
No, I was going to just chime in to what you were saying, that Chris Christie, he tested positive for COVID-19 as well. But to the other point, before we get to that guy, I think that Joe did the best that he could, but because of Trump's arrogance, man, and the whole loud talking, it was hard to really just have just a nice formal debate with him. But it was like, okay, give me some stuff, give me some substance, Trump, instead of just chiming in, just trying to just be rude and disruptive. I just didn't see, how Trump was, up to par on that whole debate. And now next Wednesday there's going to be the second debate. I saw Joe Biden say, I saw him say earlier today that he's going to listen to the scientists to see what they say about the debate. Other than that, he's going to be ready.
But you know what? It's like for Biden to go to debate Trump. That's like a rapper trying to go into a cipher against Black Thought. I mean, come on, man. You can prepare all you want, but some things you just ain't going to win that fight because he's going to turn it into basically name calling, trying to talk over you. And, and then the only reason Biden lost his composure the way he did is because if he just tried to stay calm the whole time, people basically going to rip him and say, "Oh, well, he's soft and weak," and that's kind of what Trump wants to portray, that he's strong and forceful. And if Biden didn't project himself like that, he would have just felt like, yeah, Sleepy Joe, he ain't gonna do nothing. Yeah. So he had to show some fire.
That's why I'm glad he did show that fire.
But there are rules to these presidential debates.
Yeah. And they threw him out the window.
And Trump threw it out the window. You know what I'm saying?
Right, like, Trump did.
Like when you got it, there was a time where Chris Wallace said, your people, your campaign people, y'all promised to have this 2-minute uninterrupted slot. Right. And that was one of the main areas where Trump began to bully himself in, so Joe could not really give you a comprehensive plan on his energy deal, his economy, all of that, on climate change and even on policing, because they went on that. They went talking about policing, and then Trump has the ability. He's got this gift to shift the conversation to another way.
Good point.
You know what I'm saying? The other thing that I saw too was that Trump. They talked about how Trump had the inability to call out white supremacists, to denounce them. You know what I'm saying? And you saw him pause and deliberately stall, with denouncing them.
Yeah.
Because like you said, Wardy, that's his fan base.
Yeah.
When he told the Proud Boys,
Proud Boys.
When he told them to stand back,
what's up, Rob?
When he told them to stand back and to stand by, immediately Twitter with the Proud Boys, they went on fire and they said, "Sir, we are standing by." So by him saying that, he's showing that he's the leader of the Proud Boys.
Right, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
And I looked at that as two things. One was his way of recruitment. To let the nation know that it's okay. Those that are going to be a part of the Proud Boys, whatever we want to call them, that it's okay. This is your leader, the leader of the free world, the leader of the United States, recruiting right now. Stand by.
Stand back and stand by.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So
and Keith, that's telling people that on the night of election, get ready to intimidate people that are going to the polls. Get ready to be violent if the results don't go our way. Absolutely. This is him telling his base to be prepared to do whatever it is you want to do on the night of the election to intimidate voters and to also cause civil unrest because you don't like the results. He just gave them license to do that.
Yeah. So many
and that's scary. That's scary, man.
Right.
Like he's basically saying, "Hey, go out the night of and intimidate as much people as you can not to vote. And hey, guess what? If we lose this thing, I want you to create total chaos throughout the world. Right. And what's really scary, man, is that whole Supreme Court nomination, if they push that through, I just hope, man, that this thing does not boil down to the Supreme Court justice vote on this thing. Because if they do, we in trouble, man. That's telling you right there that what does the voters have? Does the voters have a choice, or is it going to boil down to the Supreme Court making this whole thing a nomination or making it a go?
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see, man. We'll see. I mean, we just got to get out there and vote. I got my mail-in ballots.
Yeah, I just got to go drop mine off.
Yeah, it's important. Yeah. It's definitely important that we get out and vote. And this is, if those that are watching, if you know any elders, try to support them as much as you can, and trying to help them with voting, because this vote is certainly important as all hell. So if you know any elders, those that may not know, how to do the mail-in ballots, our elderly, sometimes they struggle with, certain things, so I think it's important to tap into our older folks, making sure that they get out and vote is important. It's interesting that, everybody was online and still, wondering, was his, him testing positive, was that a hoax, or what was that? What was going on with that? What did y'all think at first when y'all first saw that? What was that, Thursday night?
Yeah.
That was Thursday night.
Yeah.
Thursday night,
Friday morning. Basically, my first thing was, all right, when's the next presidential debate? In 14 days. Well, less than 14 days. So he got a quarantine. So maybe, it's just a little stretch, but maybe he's just doing it to get out of the next debate, to prepare for the future debate, to give himself some more time, or just like, they say karma's a bitch. He said he completely was talking about Joe. He was like, Joe be wearing the biggest mask I ever seen. But now, I got my little man. I got my mask is tucking back in his jacket. Yeah. Now what happened?
And Joe's negative. Right.
Yeah, and a lot of people, his family was even at the debate with no mask on, sitting right up front. So it shows you, to me, it's just so telling, how they just think they're so untouchable. But EBK, what did y'all think of at first, man?
It almost looks like medical malpractice in a lot of ways.
Okay,
because we need to know, there's no HIPAA when it comes to public officials. We need to know the medical status of our president. Now, his advisor, Hope Hicks, tested positive Wednesday night, the night after the debate.
Right.
And then Thursday night. So between Wednesday night and Thursday night, we really don't know if Trump tested positive during that time frame, but he still went to a private event on Friday. He had these super spreader events that put a whole lot. You see, Chris Christie's even in the hospital right now because he was helping Trump prep for the debate.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Right. This is why I really don't believe it's a hoax, because you would have to really have gone into some elaborate measures to falsify people's medical conditions. You know what I'm saying? But I just believe if the president and his administration knew about these early COVID results, this put other people's lives in jeopardy. This is medical malpractice on a large scale, and it just looks like it's so reckless. This administration is so reckless, so sloppy with how they care. Not only did they not care about the 207,000 lives lost, but these rallies, these events, even after this woman,
potential.
even this, after this woman tested positive, they don't care, you know, and still Trump does not care. He's putting Secret Service at risk by doing drive-bys outside of Walter Reed Medical Center.
Right.
What is this? He's not Michael Jackson. He's like Michael Jackson driving by like he got fans or something.
He do got fans.
Hey, listen,
Proud Boys is out there standing by.
Hey, listen, the timetable.
He had to go wait to the Proud Boys.
Hey, listen, the timetable of when he actually contracted it, that timetable is so muddled. But I think what's really, really disturbing, man, is the fact that when you can get these doctors to sign off on a release. Now, I know I've heard people signing themselves out of the hospital before, but these doctors are going against their oath, their ethics, and their values to appease this guy, knowing that he's still contagious. You're going to let him, as KD just said, you're going to let him do a drive-by, and then you're going to let him leave the hospital? Come on, man. Something's wrong with that picture, man.
Yeah, because what happens in the quarantine?
Exactly. I can understand if and he shouldn't be around nobody. He shouldn't be around
nobody. Yeah,
you know. But the other thing is, I can understand if you're going to discharge him, let him go to the White House. They're equipped with a medical staff, and they have a hospital in there for him to continue with his therapeutics. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? But for the doctor, the head doctor at Walter Reed Medical Center, to come out on the second day and almost say that I lied about Trump's status because I didn't want to, you know, make it seem like the president's positive and upbeat status and the administration's I didn't want to, you know, he didn't want to, you know, kind of drown that, you know what I'm saying? Because he glossed over the fact that Trump had to have oxygen at least twice because his pulse ox dropped. Right. And when he first came out and said it, he like not lied about it, but when it was pressing him about it, he didn't want to answer. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So it's too much cover up. Yeah. You know, just be open and honest about how this disease has affected Trump. And I believe they're keeping some of that under wraps because he's got some underlying medical conditions that this COVID-19 has exacerbated.
Exactly. Well, they did definitely say that he was obese, but yeah, that's a good point, Katie. I just don't like all of this.
Obesity ain't an underlying medical condition, though.
That joke got put away from the
there's definitely some other things going on, but listen, I'm just tired of the secrecy, and I just want to see some more transparency because, you know, this is going to affect other people in the world. So why hide that? You know?
I also think that, you know, when you talk about being transparent, this has been Trump's thing throughout. You know, we just finding out, and we know it was something going on with his taxes, but we just finding out this dude paying $750 in taxes, federal taxes. What's up?
What's up, man? CPA. I want that CPA.
Exactly.
I'm like, yo, who he got right now, man? But you know, when that came out, man, it's ridiculous, and it's just so it's so symbolic of his history, you know, of hiding stuff, you know, and when you're doing $750 in taxes, you know, I'm like, yo, that's ridiculous, you know.
Is that
what one check?
You're making millions.
I paid that one check.
But for the IRS to allow him to he must have a good CPA to see these tax loopholes. Because the IRS, remember the IRS went after Fred Sanford, had all his stuff out on the out on the curve was. Remember how they attacked him?
They stole all his stuff off.
Remember when Wesley Snipes went to jail for 3 years?
Yes, he did.
For $800,000 in taxes that he was willing to pay, but the judge said no. Remember Lauryn Hill went to jail for 3 months because of taxes? You know what I'm saying? they will come at us. Even the billionaire right now, the brother that was paying tuition for the HBCUs at Howard.
Yeah. Who used to own BET?
IRS is it? No, he didn't own BET. That's Bob Johnson.
Oh, you're not talking about Bob Johnson?
Nah. It's another billionaire brother,
okay.
And he vowed to pay Howard's all the Howard students school debt for those 4 years. The IRS is actively investigating him for tax evasion and everything like that. But he's been on the up and up. Trump, all of these years, has IRS in his back pocket.
Well, here's my take on this whole thing. The biggest loophole is the fact that they always basically income tax is illegal. They're not supposed to collect it. It was only instituted from the Great Depression to make a recovery. But because that if you work for somebody, you have to fill out a W-4. And I'm pretty sure anybody else, even the actors or whatever, they had to go through some avenues to get their paycheck, to get their money. So when we do that, we sign that W-4. When we sign it, we say, you know what, we can forget about all the, that it's illegal to collect it, but we agree to give you income tax. And with that, that's the reason why they can come after us so aggressively, because we already gave them permission to take it. Since we gave them permission, we have a bonding contract to say, take my money.
Right. Mm-hmm. But some of the loopholes that Trump found was many deductions that we would have never thought of.
Exactly.
Trump had deductions for his hairstylist.
Yeah,
and his daughter.
Yeah.
I can't do that. I can't do it either. Deductions for my hairstylist. EB, you might be able to. I don't know, EB. You might be able to get some.
You got that curly stuff up there, man.
You still got some Jerry left in there, boy. You still got some Jerry left up in there, man.
Listen, man. Hey, the inches and berries, man. I'm holding on to my hairline.
That's right. Juices and berries.
I'm holding on.
Hey, the interesting to me, man, was, who is the stylist that was able to get that off, to be able to get that money, and Trump hair still look the same?
That's certified public accountant, man.
Think about it. He had his own little TV show, so anything associated with that, with his brand, is a write-off.
Mm-hmm.
He's getting his stylist for the show, so that's a write-off.
But he's had several bankruptcies also that probably protected a lot of his assets and his monies. And no telling what kind of offshore accounts he's got over there in Moscow.
Right.
Because he was bankrupting contractors down in Atlantic City way back in the 80s. Because if it wasn't for one contractor. If it wasn't for him putting a lien on the Taj Mahal, he would have never got paid. But he claimed bankruptcy after building the Taj Mahal, and all those contractors, I ain't gonna say all, but most of them, had to fold up. Paid. Yeah, because they didn't get paid.
I'm like,
how can you build a $1 billion building but be bankrupt? It's crazy.
Hey, fellas, we gonna wrap that up, man. And tomorrow we have tomorrow Wednesday we have the vice presidential debate.
Wednesday.
Yeah, Wednesday. Yeah, and I'm certainly looking forward to seeing what I think this is going to be a little bit different than that debacle we saw last week. So yeah, that's our that's our segment on the presidential debate and Trump. And
I just gotta say, Rob Tufnell, you're crazy.
What's he saying?
Tufnell's crazy. Tufnell's crazy.
Go ahead,
Keith. I just had to say Tufnell's crazy.
Oh man! So up next we have a good doctor Dr. Schubert Perotte, who is joining us. This is something that we were having a conversation about all summer, the fellas and I, just bringing a black male doctor on to be able to make us more aware of what's going on with the healthcare system. Dr. Perotte is a Rutgers University graduate. He is Dr. Perotte MD. Dr. Perotte, when he gets on, I'm going to have to ask him what the FADC, what that other part is, because I'm not the smartest one out there, but I definitely got to ask him what that is. Dr. Perotte certainly is an emergency physician who worked in hospitals throughout New Jersey, New York, North Carolina, and has been on several different platforms and different boards. And he sees a lot. So we wanted to tap into Dr. Perotte experience. So he can definitely help us out, make us more aware, make us more conscious, So one of the things we asked, if, mothers, if you could, get your sons on here, your uncles, your fathers, is certainly a pervasive problem that's going on when we talk about men and their health. So we're going to bring Dr. Perotte on, and first thank him for his time. Dr. Perotte, you there, man?
Yes, I'm here. Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you.
Yeah,
How you doing, Doc?
Excellent.
How you doing, Doc?
I'm doing well. How you doing?
Good.
Excellent.
We first thank you for joining us on our podcast. We tend to talk about a lot of different things. Several weeks ago, we had a cop that we knew. We wanted to get his perspective, or last month, his perspective on policing in America. So we want to, travel through all different types of discussions, within our culture. And we most certainly thought it was important to have you on, to speak to us, to speak to families, to speak to those that are watching about this this important topic, this important thing, So welcome, again, welcome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you guys for offering me this opportunity to share my thoughts, share my experiences, and I'm going to really try to be as transparent as I can, because I think it's important. It's important for. Health is one of those things that we can never ever take for granted. And, I've been blessed with the opportunity to understand some of this information and to be able to pass it on and to empower people with it, and to be able to present it on these type of platforms is nothing but good. It's a win-win for everyone. And,
right.
There's just no better business than a win-win for everyone. So thank you guys for inviting me, and I'm happy to be here and provide.
Thanks, man. Thanks, man. Thanks. We're glad that you came. One of the things that we want you to share was, why is it important to go to a primary doctor, versus urgent care? I know these urgent cares have popped up, over the last several years, and why is it important to go to your primary doctor?
Okay. Well, this is going to be, there's going to be multiple layers to this, but, I just want to try to keep it simple for folks is, in this day and age, everyone wants things fast, like yesterday, and the urgent care provides that ability. You have a problem, especially if you've known it, you've had it multiple times in the past, what medications you've been given. Great. The urgent care center works. But there are things that the reason why we say primary care is still very important for each and every individual is because there are things that the urgent care center understands and does, and there's a lot of things that they do not do. So I just want to dive in a little bit into those things. And, it just comes from when they're able to sit down and just have a conversation with you to understand a little bit about your medical issues, what it is that has happened in your family, what it is that's going on with your lifestyle in particular, because a lot of things that we think of as being normal, we think that, the amount that we smoke, the amount that we drink, the amount that we eat, the foods that we eat, we think that's okay. And it's been what we've understood to be normal in our community, and may not necessarily be the best thing for our health because, these things change with history and time, and we may be stuck in a different time and a place depending on what your own family, your own culture has sort of passed down to you. So I think it's important for those things. And even with updates on vaccinations, on keeping you protected and doing sort of immunity for the whole community and group and culture, and protecting the family unit as well. And, there are certain things that we don't check on our own that still need to be checked on a regular basis. You may go on and think, hey, I never knew I had high blood pressure because I haven't been to the doctor in 10 years and no one has checked my pressure.
Right.
And as we know, we'll dive in a little bit into hypertension, but hypertension is known as a silent killer because you can go on having it for years and years and years and not know anything. And unfortunately, those are the things that really affect the community, because when you don't know and when you never get it checked, you're just blind to it until it's too late. And by then, all the bad effects that hypertension can have on your body has already taken its toll. And then we talk about eye exams, your vision. A lot of us take our vision for granted, and we know, and we think we can see, we start to squint, and everybody, no matter who you are, eventually with time, your eyes are going to go. And it's just
Dr. Perotte.
Yes.
Dr. Perotte, ask Eric, did he find his other pair of glasses?
He was looking for his glasses early.
Because I don't think he can see you too clear right now.
I have astigmatism, Doc, which as you know, I can't see far away, but I'm good to go.
Okay. And so these are the type of things that you get screening tests done just so they can say, hey, this is doing good, or this is where you were relative to where, if you're still with the same primary care doctor 5-10 years down the line, they were like, well, this is where you were 5 years ago. This is where you were 10 years ago. I see a steady deterioration, and we might want to get this checked out a little bit further. And then there are other things that they look for and ask questions for, depression, a lot of things that are going on in your lifestyle that you may not think is a big issue or a problem for you that you may need to get addressed. And you just think this is in your head, in your mind, you don't get to see the outside perspective, and they get to dive into a little bit deeper, ask sort of these other sort of set of questions that really say, there may be something going on here and we should investigate it a little bit further, all to just better you as the individual. And then, there's diabetes, which runs rampant in our community, obesity. Those are prime factors that you may not think anything of your weight. There's multiple people that talk about, being big boned. And, and again, it runs
ain't no such
thing. Community, but, the truth of the matter is there's no such thing. When the skeleton comes off, there's no big bones in the skeleton. The skeleton is still the same size. You just add in the layers to it. So, it's really important that we sort of understand these things sooner rather than later. And it just helps as another person encouraging you, because if you never hear the words, they say you need to adjust X, Y, and Z, then you never really do it, because you don't have anybody sort of pushing you in that direction from an outside perspective. You may have family members, et cetera, that may give you a little bit of insight, but you need someone else, an outside perspective on a regular ongoing basis to see where you're going. And again, it could be that you're gaining weight, and on the flip side, you could be losing a lot of weight. And and if you're not actively doing that and someone's not checking and saying, hey, listen, you weren't here 6 months ago and you're 15 pounds lighter. Did you do that on purpose? What have you been doing, et cetera, et cetera? Right. And those may lead to other questions. And you not knowing, you may just think, oh well, I've been stressed. I haven't been doing that great with my diet, et cetera, et cetera. So these things are going to come into play. So the primary care doctor's responsibility is to make sure those screening tests get done. They check these things and they make you aware. As men, and some people don't. We got prostate issues that start to creep up, and if it's prevalent in your family, the sooner you get that checked out, the better. And if you wait too late, then it becomes a problem when it's a little bit later. And there's other things that are just for men in general. There's testicular exams. If you start feeling any type of weird masses there that weren't there, and you have somebody take a look, and you may have hernias down there that you may not have paid it any mind. You're like, well, I've had this for years, but at least now you'll have the option of someone taking a look and saying, hey, do you really want to do something about this, or you want to keep on going? You may have a growth on your back, in your chest, on your arms or legs, and you may not think anything of it. They're like, well, that rash or that mole that you have there actually doesn't really look like a regular normal mole, and we may need to get that checked out a little bit further. And those may, and for us, because we think we have darker skin and we don't get tan, and we're not susceptible to getting any type of skin cancers. Yes, it's not as prevalent in our community, but we do get it. And by the time they diagnose us, it's already too late, because we've just figured that, oh no, I'm not really out in the sun that often. I think my skin is okay. I've had this bump here for the longest time. Yes, it's probably gotten a little bit bigger, but I haven't really paid it no mind. So these are all important things that you can take care of sooner rather than later, that'll benefit you later on in your life.
Cool.
Right.
Doc, one of the things, and I know fellas got several questions. I wanted to get mine out, one out. But one of the things that
don't be selfish, man.
No. One of the things I've noticed over the years, and I could speak on my step pop, man. I could speak on so many people that I know that they struggle with taking their husband to the hospital. I'm sorry, the male in their family, their loved one. They struggle with them going to the hospital, going to the doctors, getting checked out. They may see something going on. They may see a change. They may see a difference. What do you think is behind that, where men, will not go to their doctors to get checked out? If you could, expound on that a little bit.
It's really, and I can talk about it in the broad sense of all males of all races have a problem going to the doctor. I would say of all the races that we encounter, it's really, for me, what I see, people that wait the longest to come in is really more the African American culture, because for a lot of us it's ego, but we also have to dial it back to history, because history and culture dictates what's going on now. Because if our grandfathers and great grandfathers, they were subject, they didn't trust their doctors. They had no reason to trust the medical community, because look at what they've done and how they've experimented on Black people. And this is something that's sort of pervasive throughout history, and not being considered, given the same priorities, given the same treatments, et cetera, that's been long standing. So people tend to shy away from that. But, again, the male ego, even though the male may be the primary provider in the household, will ensure and will make sure all of his children go to the doctor. We'll ask his wife, you went to the doctor, what did they have to say? Are you doing okay? And we'll make sure everyone else in the household is fine. But when it comes to them, they're just like, I think I'm okay. And I always try to encourage, because I work in the emergency department, and I get to see people coming in their distress or being pushed, because it's they reach the last straw, and like the pain is unbearable. Whatever's happening with them is beyond their own control, and they can't really explain it. So now they got to come to the emergency department, and we got to really sort of twist it out to get the facts. Because even when my brothers and sisters arrive to the emergency department, they don't really want to be there, and they don't really want to give me any information. They're upset, they're frustrated, they're embarrassed. They really don't really want to be in that setting. It's not very comfortable, and the hospital is a super uncomfortable place. You're in a gown. You don't hardly have any clothes on. You're in the middle. Other people can hear what's going on with you. You hear what's going on with other folks. So, so it's a tough environment to be introduced, and it's not very inviting. So the psychological portion is like, do I really want to expose myself to that over and over again? And the truth is, it's probably no. But once you start getting yourself programmed. It's like, listen, let's do this once a year. You may not want to do it every 6 months, but you do it once a year. You get things checked out, and you start slowly, and you hold someone accountable for your health and saying, hey, listen, and you may have, and what we don't understand and what we don't take the lead on is that you may have an idea of what's going on, and your doctor may push it to the side or not, or may think that you may need to see this specialist. It's also incumbent upon you to also be active participants in your own health. Well, I heard about this other doctor that does weight loss therapy. You recommend me going to see him, and they may say, yes, I think that's a good idea, or something that they may not even be thinking of. They're like, hey, listen, I hear you have some problems with your balance. Well, I'm going to do these battery of blood tests on you. Well, I heard one of my friends had this issue, and they went to go see a neurologist, and the neurologist told them to do X, Y, and Z, and sent them other further. Do you think that's something that I should check out just the same? So they may, again, doctors are not perfect. We try to do a very good job. You try to be comprehensive, but you taking an active role just the same is important for your health, and you have to be empowered and pushy enough to do so, especially when you're dealing with your primary care provider, because you're the business. At the end of the day, you pay that insurance bill, and I can tell you how many people I have to always ask them the question. I'm like, listen, they're taking money out of your check each and every pay period.
Absolutely.
And if you're just giving that money away. You're just giving it away to the insurance company and getting nothing for it. And there's nowhere else that you would do that. There's nowhere else. You would be actually pretty upset if you gave somebody some money and they did nothing for you. You're like, well, why am I paying you? You almost want to fire them or be upset at them for those type of behaviors.
Hey, Doc, real quick, if I could ask this question, Doc, and first, thanks again for stopping by to hang out with the fellas. Doc, could you tell us, like, maybe the top 4 or 5 health concerns that are plaguing the African-American community, particularly in men? Some of them are obvious, but some of those health concerns that are resulting in an emergency room visit.
So there are. It's a little bit complicated, but I'll try to make it as simple as I can. So, high blood pressure. Unfortunately, by the time you start getting symptoms of high blood pressure, because some of us, we start retaining a lot of water in our legs, and we've been having headaches for the longest time. We take a little Tylenol, we try to go to bed, and we don't really know what's going on. And then little do we know, it's our kidneys that are starting to fail. And it's because of a long-standing history of hypertension. And then there is diabetes, and diabetes, again, runs rampant in the community. It's like we may be diagnosed with diabetes one time, and we don't like the medication. We don't like the way the medication makes us feel. We stop taking it. And then all of a sudden, you wind up, you get a little sickness, which turns into a blow-up problem, and now you're incapacitated. You can't really think. You can't walk around. You have a little common cold that now blows up into a pneumonia that winds up making you unable to even breathe. So these little small complications, someone would have a common cold, a little bronchitis that can be treated easily with some oral antibiotics, now requires you to have to be hospitalized, now requires you to get IV antibiotics, because your body's immune system is now weakened secondary to the diabetes. And we have other things that plague our community. Unfortunately, homicide it continues to be a detriment to especially the young folks in our community, that we really need to be aware of, that causes downstream issues and problems, depression, psychiatric. You have sort of post-traumatic stress disorder. A lot of this stuff gets ignored in our community. But if you go through a traumatic experience where your life is almost taken away from you, and it starts off young, and that's the unfortunate portion. It's like we need to mentor and be cognizant of the young people, of the youth, because no one addresses these issues with them, and they grow up to be men. and they keep recycling the same thing. And and I get to see it on the flip side when, I see an 18, 20-year-old calling for his mother, and it's supposed to be a gangster. When you're on your last dying day and you think your life and you're not going to make it out, you cry and scream for your mom. And and those, that has to be a troubling experience. We try to take that experience and try to place people on the right path and tell them about, things doing better. No one comes to see you in the hospital. You're there alone. None of your friends from out in the street are coming to see you. And your family is out doing whatever they need to do, and they don't have time to come see you. So you're isolated, sitting there in that hospital bed, in pain, under distress, and the psychological breakdown that happens, contributes a large portion to what's going on to folks in the future. And other things to be aware of. Obesity is taking over our community, and unfortunately, it's taken over the world. But we are at a higher risk of it just because of diet, lifestyle, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm trying not to. I'm going to give you a little bit. And just let me know whatever else.
Because if I ever end up in a hospital, none of y'all come see me. I'm gonna haunt y'all. Y'all join me.
And the hospital is a sad place because
I don't want that.
It's boring. It's boring. And when I go back and talk to folks, that are sitting in that hospital bed, you get up, you go to the bathroom, you may sit in a chair, depending on how able-bodied you are, but it's a lonely place.
Yeah,
it's a lonely place.
Yeah, but especially now because of COVID and the inability to allow visitors and family there with you, because a lot of COVID patients died alone.
Yep.
Because they weren't able to have family or anyone close to them in the hospital room. So one of the things I wanted to ask you about, Doctor, one of the leading causes of Black men dying at very high rates is prostate cancer. Enlarged prostate runs in my family. I was diagnosed with enlarged prostate. I'm 47 years old, so about 5 to 6 years now.
Okay.
My doctor, I was getting the PSAs, which is the blood work to indicate concern in the high number, that level that I was receiving. And then I was referred to a urologist because my primary just felt like at this young age, he's concerned that I'm having this enlarged prostate, even though it is genetic. It runs in my family. So I was seeing the urologist, for the last 2 to 3 years. And he wanted me to have a biopsy of my prostate done to safeguard me.
Yep.
I had my friend Ward up there take me to that biopsy because they had to put me out for that.
Yeah. You want to be out for it.
Yeah, definitely. But
no man
one of the
do that.
and here's the point that I'm getting to. One of the reasons why a lot of men don't see the doctors, because examinations and screenings like colorectal cancer and prostate cancer are very invasive. Even just at your primary. Yep. With your the prostate exam with your primary, the insertion of fingers into your anus, that's difficult to swallow, difficult to handle. Even though it's momentary, it hurts like hell.
Yep.
But it's a necessary evil. And I've talked to some brothers that absolutely refuse to have that type of screening done because of different things related to their sexuality or homophobia and things like that. So trying to convince, and a lot of Black men feel like this.
Yep.
It's
pervasive.
Right. How do you get that across to men that this is a necessary examination that you need to have that could prevent something that could be dealt with at an early stage in your life?
Yeah, I just go about preaching it because I know it very well. because my dad had prostate cancer. And what I tell everyone is that essentially prostate, just like your eyes go bad, your prostate is gonna become enlarged. Some get it sooner rather than later. And it's going to be a normal, it's a normal progression of life for every single male. Some people are going to get it in their 70s. Some people are going to get it in their 80s. Some people are going to get it in their 40s and 50s. Typically, it doesn't happen in the 30s. But if you have a strong family history of enlarged prostate CA, and the prostate becomes enlarged, and if you don't keep an eye on it, it continues to get enlarged. And when the cells sort of get enlarged, that's the opportunity for them to transform into other growths that could potentially be cancerous, especially if you have cancer running, prostate cancer specifically running in your family. And what I tell folks is that, yes, these prostate, and sometimes I have to do prostate exams even in the emergency department.
In emergency room.
And I tell them, listen, I don't want to do it to you just as bad as you don't want it done. And and I keep telling folks, I'm like, if you weren't a homosexual before this, you will not be a homosexual after this. Okay, so it's really a very uncomfortable procedure. If I had to tell you, if there's one of those things that people can put you out for, we would put people out for it. But unfortunately, it's an exam that's going to last less than 60 seconds. It's important to just get it checked and just to get it done. And there's a lot of things that we do and a lot of sacrifices that we make in life, that we just have to get this done. My barber, he likes to make fun of me when I walk into the barber shop. He's like, "Oh, fellas, free prostate exams for everybody." We got a doctor in the house. So, I'm like,
hey, but that 60 seconds is a long time,
Yeah, that's 60 seconds, and typically it's a lot less. But
it's a lot less.
It's a lot less. But what I'm saying is, the gist of it is like, guys, this is going to be uncomfortable. It's a necessary evil, and typically, and and again, it's a simple blood test, but it has to be monitored for any irregularities or enlargement. And it typically doesn't start. You don't have to start early unless you have strong family history. You can probably wait till you're about 50 plus, but if you have family history, you may have to start in your 40s, early 40s.
But doctor,
get started.
Dr. Perotte, but even with that being said, as a black man, should we be getting these screens much earlier than our 50s? Because I had a white doctor, tell me, even though I don't have the history of cancer in my family, that in my 40s, as a black man, because of environmental factors and different things of not having access to what white America might have access to, as far as my diet and things like that, and different stress, it puts me at a higher risk and makes me more susceptible to cancer in general. So a white doctor told me I need to start my screens early in my 40s.
Yeah. And again, you'll have to rely on your primary care doctor, because these things change with time. Some of the times we started doing these screenings, people were like, "Oh no, you don't have to do the screenings till you're like 60." And they're "Oh no, we got to scale that back. We got to do it at 50." Oh, well, now, we got to start a little bit earlier. Oh, depending on if you start having any kind of weird or odd symptoms, we need to get that checked, or we may need to get a baseline check of your PSA. And once we check the baseline, if we're doing that and we're checking it every single year, it's like, wait a minute, whatever it is, if you're at the higher upper limit of normal, but you start seeing that number start to creep up, again, now the information. It's like, hey, listen, that number starts to creep up. Now it's time for you to get checked out, and you may need further testing or aggressive testing, just to make sure that we take care of you sooner rather than later. Yeah, because again, the black people dying of this is because we wait too long. That's exactly what happens. The same white male will have the same exact diagnosis, but will survive it because they were checked sooner. earlier.
Wow.
And then, the sooner they found out, the sooner they can start addressing the problem while it's small. And that's the key, addressing the problem while it's small. You get those biopsies done. That biopsy shows, well, there's a questionable lesion here. It hasn't spread anywhere, and it still enclosed inside the capsule. So we're going to start the treatment now, early on. And this way we can avoid getting surgery. We can continue to monitor your PSAs, or we can do seed implants, we can do radiation therapy, whatever it may be that the current mode of therapy is. It will not be as aggressive as it will be if it starts to spread. And once it starts to spread, you're in for a very hard, long, torturous course.
Because prostate seems to be a very aggressive, prostate cancer seems to be a very aggressive type of cancer that once you're diagnosed with it, the likelihood of it spreading is very rapid, especially with Black men.
And the same thing goes with colon cancer. It's like, we don't know about it. And by the time you realize it, it's like, it's way too late, and it's
pancreatic.
It's happened here. I mean, even during the, unfortunately, look at COVID. One of my good friends, her dad wasn't feeling that great, was vomiting, had some belly pain, had diabetes, had not really had a colonoscopy done, was in his 60s, didn't get anything checked out. He didn't really want to stay in the hospital, but he was having some bleeding. And then he was like, well, I'll just wait a little while. Waited. And then, he started having more abdominal pain. Before you knew it, he had part of his colon rupture, and he wasn't really even feeling the pain. When they went in to do a biopsy, when he got a CAT scan done, they showed he had a mass. Then he had to have a colonoscopy. The colonoscopy showed he had several lesions, and they took biopsies, and then he had cancer all over. He went for radiation therapy. Less than, I would say, about 2 or 3 months later, he went from being 200 pounds to really about 80 pounds. Gone just like that. And it's so aggressive, and it's just one of those things. That's the reason it's sort of mandated that we get these treatments and these screening tests, as uncomfortable as they may be. That's the reason they're important, because they've been shown to save and promote longevity of your lifetime. And the sooner you get them done, and the sooner you get them out the way, the better off you will be.
Nice. Hey, Doc, that leads me to my next question, Doc. Yeah. You mentioned the prostate.
I think Wardy might have.
Yeah, this can be real quick. Go ahead. Real quick. What other type of preventative screenings are out there now? The fellas, we're in our late 40s. What other preventative screenings are out there? Well, I'm 47, 40. I'll be 48 next week.
There's always a battery of tests that they do typically, to check your, again, they're going to check some basic things like your vital signs. They're going to do they should do a in detail physical exam from head to toe. And then when it comes to blood work, it's like, we'll check to see whether you're anemic or not. We'll check to make sure your platelets okay, your white count, just so we can have a relative baseline of what it's like and normal for you. And then they check your kidney function, your glucose. They even check to see what's going on with your liver function and also your cholesterol. These are all things that we may not pay attention to, that we may need to readjust our diets in relationship to those things. And even they'll do a baseline urine to sort of check to see if there's anything spilling out in the urine that is contributory to your high blood pressure and proteins. There's a battery of tests, and it's important to get these tests continually done, because things can change year to year. And, again, addressing them sooner rather than later is always very, very helpful. And then, hemoglobin A1C, when they do a spot check on you to check your sugar may be normal if you have been fasting or if you didn't eat anything that morning. And then when you get that hemoglobin A1C, that shows what the trend has been for 3 months. And that's when you get a picture. It's completely different. And now they're like, wait a minute, this is really abnormal. And now you have to really take it up a whole nother notch, because if you don't, when we repeat this test, and now we'll probably have to repeat it sooner rather than later to see how you're doing. If it's not coming down, and if it's staying the same or going higher, we're going to need to put you on medications, or we're going to have to do serious, heavy, diet modifications. And again, these are things that creep up on you that you don't know, that you may not understand, but you just need to make sure you get them checked out.
Right.
Ward, you got a question?
All right, mine is more like, it's just like maybe advice, because like we were saying earlier, how we're afraid to go to the doctor, don't have our trust issues and everything. For the people that finally decide to go, that are looking into finding a primary care, can you give us like tips of what we should be looking for in a doctor? Like, because I've been to a doctor and I'm like, nah, I ain't really feeling that one.
Yep.
Is there anything, like any specific things we could look for in a doctor to ease our to ease the trust issues, or to point us toward like, okay, maybe this one knows what they're, we may all say they don't know what they're talking about,
right?
But to give us some type of ease to like, okay, I can kind of listen to this one.
So I think it's what's going to be important is that it's going to be through word of mouth. It's going to be just like you go through any other business. It's going to be Google reviews, or whatever review site happens to be out there. If there's lots of reviews and the reviews are good, of course you'll see some of the bad ones. But if the overwhelming majority of them are good, then then you're probably safe going to there and knowing that you'll have a pretty good experience. And again, it's family too. Your family members have been to them. If they're taking care of your mom really well for years and years and years, and they've been associated with the same practice, you'll say, hey, listen, my mom goes here. My mom has great experiences, and they talk about you all the time. So I want to take this opportunity to see how you can take care of me and my health. And I think you have to be really comfortable, because it's a key and important thing. It's like, because if you don't have that comfort level and trust, it makes things extremely hard. And it's extremely hard and bad. And at the end of the day, you as the individual will be the one that loses, right? Because you come in and say, hey, listen, I think I should start you on this blood pressure medication. And if you're not comfortable with them and they start you on this blood pressure medication, you're like, hey, listen, every time I take this blood pressure medication, it's making me dizzy and I can't do certain things. I feel foggy. It's not really working out for me. And if you may just stop taking it, and you may not go back to him and say, hey, listen, is there another option? Is there other things that I can do? Maybe I'm not taking the medication the right way. Should I be cutting it in half? And, these are the side effects that I'm getting. It's important to open those lines of communication up, because they're like, oh, that is pretty common. You know what? We're going to try you on this medication instead to see how you do. And it may be a little bit of trial and error, because everybody's body reacts differently to these medications.
Because, you saying that, because years ago, I had a doctor, she put me on lisinopril. Now I had, I didn't have some of the adverse reactions that I've seen other African Americans have, but I started off with the dry cough.
Yep.
And I didn't like it. I told her about it, but I found a fix, a slight fix for it. I would drink water, a big glass of water at night before I went to bed. It would help. But I just told her, I said, I really don't feel comfortable taking this medicine. And what she told me was, well, we had to take, prescribe this before we could prescribe anything else. And I'm like, it kind of hit me funny.
Yeah.
Saying that, but it's like, there goes those trust issues and everything.
Yeah. And they got to be able to work with you, because if you're not compliant with the medication, it doesn't help you as the individual at all. So I got to work with you. I got to do what I got to do. It's like, oh, this medication and people know that this medication causes people to cough. And, it's like, I got to have a conversation. You're like, well, how bad is the cough? How uncomfortable does it make you? And does it keep you up at night? If it's not allowing you to sleep and have your regular activities of daily living, what you do when you're at the office, you're constantly coughing. It's not right. It's not going to work for you. It's one thing if you're at home, you got a home-based business, you can cough all you want, and the clients are not there with you, and it's not really a problem. But we have to come to some common ground, because that's what everybody does. They say, hey, listen, I'm just not going to take this, so you're going to have to give me something else. And we're going to have to work. Do some trial and error, because eventually that's how you get to a steady state where
Right.
everything works and progresses forward.
Yeah, that goes kind of to what because mine really wasn't a question. I just wanted to push the point forward that we got to be vigilant on our end also to work with the doctors
and they
get to where we need to be.
That's all well, that's the only medication I got for you. That's not true.
Right.
Hundreds of medications.
Right, exactly.
Of medications out there. And they keep coming up with new ones every day. You know, and then it becomes a thing of cost, insurance, et cetera, et cetera.
Oh yeah.
You can work through those things, but at the end of the day, you know, as the individual, again, there has to be a conversation. It's like, listen, I'm not going to prescribe you something that you can't afford as well.
Right.
Because, you know, if you can't afford it, then you ain't gonna be able to take it. So I gotta come to some common ground. It's like, you know, we gotta do whatever it is that we gotta do to reach that common ground to make it all work.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Good. So, Doc, I want to ask you. Okay. You just over it.
Who got the call?
You know, when you're talking about having access to preventable health care, you know, you just briefly touched on it. I wanted to see, you know, if you can, you know, dig into that a little bit.
No, I think, you know, when we talk about preventative health, it's about addressing the problem before it actually becomes a larger problem. It's like, listen, you know, you may think you're okay at the weight that you are, and truthfully, for your height, you know, and we're not asking you to be ideal, you know, ideal body weight and ideal compared to your height. But if you are in the way off range, and, you know, and when we talk about what you're doing, when you're eating, how late you're eating, you know, these are all things that are avoidable, that we got to find better ways of going about it. It's like, well, listen, all I can do is eat fast foods every day because I get home late, everything's closed, et cetera, et cetera. Like, well, we're going to have to adjust that. And we got to talk about what options. You know, either we're going to have to start cooking, we're going to have to start making stuff at home. We got to figure out other ways of buying fruits and vegetables at the store, bagging a lunch, bagging a dinner, et cetera, so that you can make better choices in the long term. Because at the end of the day, you don't have to make drastic changes. If you do, then you do. But if you can take things step by step and just see progressive, gradual improvement, that's going to help us all at the end of the day. And then it leads you from having other problems. Because again, you know, I harp on obesity because it leads to other things that set you up for the high blood pressure. It sets you up for the high cholesterol. It sets you up for the diabetes. It sets you up for cancers and strokes in the future. And just your regular everyday lifestyle is going to be inhibited because, you know, you got to get up, you got to run and chase after your kids. You got to run and chase after or do a little bit of exercise, and you don't have any endurance because the weight is keeping you down. You know, there needs to be some progression in doing those things, and, you know, being awake and alert to another perspective that kind of keeps the little buzz in your ear, like, hey, listen, we're going to need to do this a little bit different. Well, listen, this worked or did not work, so now I need to send you to see someone else, you know, that can probably help you with this. You know, and you know, these things are varied because sometimes we think it's like it's a diet issue, and you're like, listen, I've been doing what I need to do with my diet, and you know, it's still not working. You know, and I've had this high cholesterol. This kind of cholesterol thing is not getting any better, and I'm not eating I'm eating bland foods all day, every day. So it's like let's.
I even became pescatarian.
Yeah, you know, and again, it's like. Once you progress to some of those other places, you can find other options. They may say, hey, listen, well, we found we need to tweak something with your thyroid because that's the reason why you're gaining weight. And, you know, we need to do some other battery of tests to check out, you know, other things as far as your system is concerned. And, you know, then we start tweaking little things, and then they start adjusting your diet, and they may send you to see a weight loss specialist that, you know, that's all they do all day, every day. And they wind up finding little tweaks that they can make to make your lifestyle a lot easier because that's what they deal with all day, every day. You know, there's options out there.
Tough Nell's tough.
What do you say?
We're ready to come.
But you know what? You know, the biggest thing is, you know, we have to remember that
oh man,
our health
tough,
is
man.
not like mathematics. It's not
Correct.
in your face, cut and dry.
Mhm.
There's no changing it.
It's not a cookie cutter.
It's, you know,
It's not a cookie cutter.
it's not a cookie cutter. It's not, you know, 1 + 2 = 3.
One size fits all.
Yep.
It's not. It's not.
Exactly.
So, like, you know, we got to keep vigilant.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
and
we have to be reminded of it.
Yeah. And you have to stay an advocate for yourself. You have to stay an advocate for yourself because that's a lot of things that we as the community just take what people tell us and we just do it or don't do it. There's no sort of middle ground. There's no discussion about it. It's sort of, we just take it. We're like, well, that's the doctor, and the doctor knows what they know, and I don't know much more than that. But you know your body, and you know how you feel. So you have to really let those things be known, so that it can really be, so that it benefits. It's a win-win for everybody. You know, they're there to help you, and you're there to help yourself. You know?
Hey, Doc, is there such thing as a vitamin deficiency test? Like, you know, everybody may take a multi, right?
Mm-hmm.
But somebody may say, oh, you need more vitamin C or more vitamin D.
Yeah.
Is there a way to tell, like, specifically what vitamin that you're lacking? Is there some form of preventative screening for that?
So they do part of your screening test is they do check your vitamin D levels, because especially for us as African Americans with dark skin and melanin.
So that excludes Ward, but go ahead.
That excludes Ward right there. We all got a good amount of melanin compared to our counterparts. So you know, it's like our exposure to sunlight and our ability to absorb the sun itself to get that portion of the vitamin D is not as easy and is not as simple. And we're not out sunbathing where, you know, we really want to, you know, we wear hats, we wear thick clothing, we wear hoodies. And these are all things that keep from the natural sort of sunlight from exposure from getting us to these levels. And there are other things with like potassium, magnesium. Those are things that we can get from the supplement. As long as we have healthy kidneys, they will not let those things get out of control. You can take more in than you need, but your kidney usually filtrates all those things out. And it's important to still get those things monitored, because you could feel weak. You could feel like you don't really have any energy, and your vitamin D levels are really, really low. It can get to the point where people feel depressed because their vitamin D levels are really, really low. Again, it's those things that, you know, your primary care doctor can do the screening for. And if they're not thinking about it, and if they're not addressing it, it's like it may need to be stepped up to a whole nother level where these doctors take those things into consideration, and they'll have to talk to you about your diet, because they're like, well, you're not getting enough sunlight. Well, you're not eating enough fruits and vegetables to supplement those type of things in your system. You're not getting enough green leafy vegetables. You know, all those things that have to work together to have you be the best of you. And again, it's not like you're going to get a battery of tests that's going to tell you every single vitamin, but there are certain essential vitamins that are cofactors for other things that we need to have at a certain level within our system. And again, those things for years, because we don't get them checked, they haven't been addressed. And then when you start adding pills to more pills, it winds up being a problem, because you just decrease compliance. Because, you know, if I got you on a high blood pressure pill, a high cholesterol pill, a diabetes pill, and now I'm asking you to take, you know, a vitamin C pill, you're just like, how many pills am I going to have to take? You know, and that's sort of that. And the problem with that is that process either has happened. Hopefully, it's happened slowly, but some of the times you just don't have the time. It's like all these issues are happening right now, and they got to be addressed, and we got to take care of them all right now. But if you were starting that process earlier, some of those things could have been preventative, you know, and some of those things you didn't have to get to the point where you needed all of those medications to be on board.
Right.
Yeah.
So
one question, a couple points that Keith and Ward had talked about, Doctor, was Keith brought up preventative care. And historically, there's been a lack of trust by the Black community with the medical profession for a large number of historical reasons.
Yep.
One of the things that I see is that it almost seems as if the medical profession has kind of shifted from preventative care to now just managing the disease.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the points that Ward brought up was that, for African Americans suffering with a multitude of cardiovascular or heart conditions like high blood pressure, hypertension, heart failure, heart disease, we're largely prescribed lisinopril, these ACE inhibitors. And it almost appears that like these ACE inhibitors statistically have had adverse effects on Black people, but they still seem to be prescribed to us as the first regimen for any type of heart or cardiovascular issue that we may have. So issues like that make it, kind of perpetuate the distrust that a lot of Black people have, number one, with not adequately, like Woody was saying, having this cookie cutter approach when it comes to our health.
Yeah, so I'll address that question real quick, because the hard part about it is there's a sort of a larger governing body, and this will give you some insight into the physician world, that says, statistically speaking, this group does better with this medication to control their blood pressure. This group in this age group does better with controlling their blood pressure with this medication or this class of medications. It's not 100%, but and then everybody really starts to follow that guideline like it's the gospel. It's like, and again, there may not be, and again, it's relative to each individual, because there may be individuals who are not very sensitive to lisinopril, who don't get any of the side effects. And I can't sit here and tell you I know that exact percentage. It could be 80, could be 70, could be 60. I imagine it would have to be, it shouldn't be more than 50% get all those side effects. Because if it is, then, in general, it should just not be prescribed.
So now we're back to statistics again.
Yeah. So
because I don't trust statistics personally, because just like, you go in to have this study done, who's to say that it wasn't, modified to push the drug through?
Got it. Yeah.
It's, to me, that's one thing that really concerns me. Is like, come on, the drug companies won't make money unless that drug is on the market.
Exactly. So, and that brings me to the next point. It's like, just what we'll continue to always come back to the preventative portion. It's like all of us are always being prescribed something instead of being told how we can rectify this problem. And some people will do it, but if you're not told about what the possibilities are to take care of this thing one time and for all, and the most effective therapy that there is, it's not a secret. We know what it is.
Right.
We could go 100% no more heart disease in our community. 100%. No more heart disease. We could eliminate diabetes. We could eliminate, cholesterol. We could eliminate all those things, barring some other little factors that have to do with your family history and the way your body processes things. If we all went on a vegan diet, we'd have none of those issues. We went on a vegan diet. We exercised regularly. We got we got adequate rest. If we did just 3 of those things, all those issues would disappear.
But doctor, it's
been shown from a long time ago.
Right.
And it's been calculated. People that have had heart attacks, they retest them. They're like, I don't know what happened to all your arteries that were clogged, but they're not clogged anymore. But but having people wanting to adapt, and and the press relies, the pharmaceutical companies rely on this. This is their bread maker. This is their $1 billion maker. That good, bad, or indifferent, they will push it to the media, because before this, again, like your doctor's office, he's doing a little business. It's like the drug company that drops off 10, 20 samples. He's going to push those samples. He's going to be like, for my people that can't afford it, here's a 20-day supply. Here's a 30-day supply.
Right.
Then, it'll help you. It'll be like, well, listen, I don't know when the drug rep is going to come back, but, I'm going to have to write you a prescription for this for the next 2 months. And then, when he comes back 3 months from now, then I can get you some more samples, and then the push from mainstream media, again, it's like the profit is there and the ability to want to manipulate what's going on and to really make the statistics be what they want them to be, because the money makes it all possible. They will,
because I don't remember seeing all these commercials as a kid.
Never did you
about drugs
commercials. None. Now the patient, it's a gift and a curse, because it's like you're pushing your doctor to understand what new medications may be better for you, but really the ulterior motive is like, I'm going to try to make the money. I'm going to bypass your understanding as the physician, because they know about physician, because we have the responsibility of the person in front of us and the family in front of us, right? So we have to, and part of the decision I have to do is say, listen, I got to go with what's tried and true, what I know a lot about, and what I've studied and I've had my own experience with. So when I give it to you, I know exactly and I'll tell you, this is the side effect to look out for. If you're having this side effect, then we'll have to discontinue it. But most people don't. But this is what I know. This is what has been effective for the longest period of time. So I'm going to give that to you because I have your best interests at heart. But the pharmaceutical company has now changed it so that there are so many options that you're bombarded with that you have to go sifting through the data to see what makes sense, what doesn't make sense. And the people with the most money, they will manipulate this data. They're like, okay, well, let's make it have more statistical power. Well, it doesn't look good because we only have 100 patients.
Right.
Let's see what it does with 1,000. Well, 1,000 looks a little bit better. Let's make it 10,000. Oh, let's make it 100. But they got the money to make it, to manipulate the market that way. And when you put it in the hands of people with ulterior motives, it makes it very, very difficult. Like, look at diabetes. It's like diabetes. It's like those insulins.
Yeah.
Like we should, shouldn't be an insulin. There shouldn't be an issue with diabetes getting control with insulin, but there is so much bureaucracy. There's so many people wanting to make so much money off of it.
Yeah,
it's impossible. It's
Tell me about it.
It's your job as the working provider. Very extremely difficult if you don't have any health insurance to try to get you the best medications, because the people with the best medications to help you the most are the ones charging the most. And even some of the old medications now, they've made it so that the old medications that used to work, that used to be cheap, that nobody paid attention to, they found ways to refurbish that and make it into slightly new and upcharge that. So, but that's
slap a name on
American society, unfortunately.
Yeah, Dr. Perotte, I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about race real quick and get your perspective on it, because you talked about if we changed our diet, and in the Black community, again, racial disparities, we don't have, Black communities don't have access to fresh fruits and fresh vegetables. A lot of Black families only have access to the corner store, to the Chinese store, to the Crown Fried Chicken, and finances and accessibility plays a large part into that. But also, when we talk about the disparities, I want a Black doctor because I feel like a Black doctor I can trust, I can relate to. And there's not only an underrepresentation with Black people in these trials of medication, but there's an underrepresentation of getting a Black doctor. I can't find a Black male doctor to save my life. So I'm dependent upon at least a white male doctor. And the only thing we have in common is that we are both men. But again, my susceptibilities and my vulnerabilities does not equate to him, and my last point also, when you look at COVID as well, the disparities with this disease killing us more than our white counterparts. What's your thoughts about race being so tangled in all of this?
Well, it's a complicated issue, but at the end of the day, there's just not enough of us. There's not enough opportunity for us. There's not enough of us in the system. And, you know, as much as we try to reach back and bring along this thing, I mean, just for example, just medicine alone, it's just, you know, a small percentage of the population gets to be a physician, right? Mm-hmm. So, you know, so that percentage is already small across all races. And, you know, for us especially us in the underrepresented communities and just people in general, you know, the amount of us that there is, Black men, Black women have left us in the dust, because when you look around the room, you're like, what happened to all the Black men? And it's just no opportunity, no early investment in education, and that's really it. And it's the hard work. It's just like, if you're brought up and you just understand that this is going to be the way it's going to be, and you got to work hard. Unfortunately, we start learning that lesson too later on in life. We're like, well, I should have started early, and you impart that on your children, because now you have the opportunity to have them start over. Not that it's too late for you, for any of us. It's just that the process is a long process as well. You know, you got to go through 4 years of college. You got to do exceptionally well while you're at college, and then you have to go through medical school. And medical school and college it's difficult, because it takes you from if you thought you were good in high school sports, when you get to the Division I level, you're like, yeah. And getting to the physician level is just like going to the NBA. It's like, or the NFL. It's like, you may have been the truth in high school. You may have been the man in college, but when you get to the big boy leagues,
you the little fish.
You really
the little fish
average.
In that pond.
You really just average. And so as we try to progress, we just need more numbers of people that are specifically just interested, that people are investing in, to really say, yes, you can. And when you say yes, you can, they just have to continue to have the support and the drive, because we can do it just like everybody else can do it. Because all of our white counterparts, they have just been told, but they've gone to, you know, if your father was a physician or your mother was a physician, your starting point is going to be a little way different, because your household, the people you associate with, the private schools that you go to school, everyone's going to be a high achiever, and your demand on the people that are teaching your children is going to be
high.
And you're going to be watching and making sure that your children reach these milestones that you know very well that they have to get to. They have to be prepared for the standardized test. And this is what we have to do. I'm paying you, so I'm holding you responsible, and that accountability continues to build and build and build. So by the time they get to the next level, they are already prepared for level number 2 and level number 3. And all they're doing is honing on those skills. And if we do that in our community sooner rather than later, we will have that. But again, it goes, America is not structured to have this be the case. And that's the reason why it's not. When we start to focus on it more, and we pull those behind us, because there's been people that come behind us that say, listen, man, this is too difficult. I don't think I'm going to make it. Right. And I
know Keith got that look on his face.
Yeah.
I got one quick question, because I know he want to wrap this up soon.
Yeah. Sorry.
I got nah. It's good. It's good. I mean, this whole discussion has been great. Yep. But I got one quick question.
Hold on. Well, let me just try to wrap up Kev's question. It's like,
thank you, doctor.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's complicated.
Tell the guy in the yellow shirt to hold on.
It's complicated, but it's important that we continue to support those in our community, make examples of them, and push everyone. Anyone who, the learning just does not stop. And you know, and just like, you know, you think as a physician, that, oh, I've been through school, I've been through residency, I've learned it all, I'm making money. The learning continues because you not only want to be good, you have to, you as an African American or an underrepresented person in this field, first of all, you have to be better than the average, number one. And two, you are, it's incumbent upon you to be a representation of everybody else, because because we're so underrepresented that we have to be a great representation of this is the possibility and who we really are if we are invested in. And we can do this just as well as anybody else can do it. And when we make it out, we're just like, listen, this person that you think is so great is actually not so great. And then you start hitting them with the statistics. You're like, well, listen, you may think your doctor is good, but let me just tell you how much better of a doctor I am than your doctor, or by a matter of fact, any doctor that you've ever come encounter with.
Right.
So, because if we base it on statistics, this is where I graduated my class in college. This is what I've done on standardized exams.
Exactly.
This is the milestones and goals that I've achieved. These are the merit awards that I've been given. These are how I do on tests afterwards. These are the reasons why I have all these other initials behind my last name. And, again, because we continue to push, it's important for us to continue to push as a community because we can do it. It may not be enough of us now, but the more we continue to push, and the likelihood of someone like me coming back to work in our community is higher. And it's hard too. It's hard because it's like once you made it, it's like, you want to get up out of the hood and you want to go in the high rise. You want to go live in the woods with your
to a deluxe apartment in the sky.
There's other things that you want to do, but again, it's like it changes and it depends on who you are and what you want to contribute and how you want to go about doing it. So, I'm sorry that was a long-winded answer. Let me get to
that is not long-winded.
Yeah. Go ahead, Ward. You had a question.
I just got this one quick question. When you come into South Jersey to start your practice for us, because I know you got four plus that'll come right to you.
Yeah. So unfortunately for me, I don't do primary care.
Yeah.
What I do is I really try to make sure that the primary care doctors that I really speak to often, that make sense, that seem to know a good amount about their patients, that just have this fortunate brain that I mentioned the first thing. They're like, oh yeah, such and such a son. Yeah, I've been taking care of him for the past 5 years. He came in with he has high blood pressure and diabetes. And they're like, yes, without me having to really juggle their memory. It's like, what's going on? Why is he there? Those type of individuals are people that are just special. With tremendous capacity to understand medicine. And it doesn't even matter the race. It's like, I know when I send you back to see them or when I refer you to them, they're going to take good care of you just because they just got it up here that they're just good and good in the heart and good in the head. And
I don't want to see that doctor that's back in his office for 15 minutes going over my charts, trying to refresh his memory because I'm just a number to him.
Right. And it's difficult, right? It's a give and take because it's like it's the hustle and bustle of the business too.
Right.
It's like they don't get paid to be in there for more than this, Y, and Z. And you never know who's the one cranking it out because they may be on salary and they be like, listen, I want you doing 6 people an hour. So that means you got 2 minutes per patient. And that's what I want you to do. And your work day will go from being 9 to 5. If you disobey it, it's like 9 to 9. And they're like, well, we don't care when you finish. You better be finished when you finish seeing all these numbers, because this is the way we really want you to do the numbers. So you never know who's playing the puppet strings and who's running it and who's running the business and what kind of hustle they're on. But again, you have to be comfortable and you may not need much maintenance. You may say, oh, I'm cool. I get my numbers done. My numbers look good. I'm going to keep going. But when the time comes when you need a little bit more help and a little bit more perspective, then you really want to have that person there to really provide that support for you.
Right.
Good stuff, Doc.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah.
Doc, man, it was such a pleasure having you on, man, and being a friend of the show, man.
Sure.
Just our thoughts with the fellas. Is there anything you would like to leave, not only us but our audience with, something, a takeaway or something, that you could leave with us?
Yes, for sure. I mean, there's going to be two things. Number one, you got to take good care of yourself, and you know the best things to do. Your parents have been telling you for the longest time. Your grandmother told you for the longest time, and you really need to take that advice. You need to do a little bit of exercise. Now people meditate, and you understand. And education is something that we can't take for granted. And it don't matter. It doesn't matter where you are in life. You got to keep on getting better. You got to read, you got to listen, you got to experience. And there's a lot of a world out there besides your own little bubble. And we all have the opportunity to grow. So continue pushing and continuing to grow. The next thing is the coronavirus, COVID-19. And it's devastating. It's been devastating to me as a physician. It's been devastating to my counterparts. It's been devastating to the medical community because we have never met a foe like this in history. You understand? People that we've worked with that are a little bit older, they just gracefully bowed out and said, listen, I can't expose myself or my family to this, and I'm doing okay, and I'm gonna have to figure out another way of going about making money. I'm gonna have to leave my practices. This level of exposure is too much for me. So when physicians, nurses, people that work in the hospital are taking this terribly, and I tell you, the emotional stress from this, when you see someone who is breathing for their life and their existence with no family, and family calling, checking, and you're busy with the hustle and bustle because everybody seems like they're deteriorating everywhere around you. You're running nonstop. You can't eat. You can't drink. You can't pee. You can't do anything, and you're in a hot suit and a mask covering everything, just trying to keep yourself protected. And I employ everybody in our communities to keep themselves safe. Do not take this health for granted because yes, you are right. You may be young, and a few of you young people, and the problem is you don't know which one you're going to be. You young people, some of you are going to get sick, really sick, and almost die, if not die. So you never know. You're just rolling the dice. But more importantly is you're going back home to your loved ones. You're exposing them. You're exposing people that have not requested this, have tried to remain safe, that trust that you're doing the right thing. And it's important that we all take care of ourselves so that we can take care of each other, and that we can be safe as a community. Because once this thing has hit us, this thing was already here, hitting us and killing us before we even knew it was around. It was the ghost. It was truly the black ghost that just spread around, and before you knew it, and us in the medical community are like, well, wait a minute, I did hear some people talking about they started losing their sense of smell, and I didn't really know what to make of it. This was like a month before everything started hitting the news, and I'm like, wow, it was already here. And it's like, we're like, and then we, as time went by, when people didn't know what was going on, I'm like, listen, you got the flu, you don't have COVID. And then when you're listening up, you're like, listen, people are getting 30-40% of the people are getting flu and COVID together. So it's like, you can't just exclude one just because you got the other. So this disease is way too complex and way too new for us to really take it for granted, to sleep on it, to really not give it the respect that it deserves with our own health. And we got to keep ourselves safe. We got to keep our community safe. We gotta do what, when you see people out there without their mask covering their nose, please, I encourage everyone to bring it up past your nose, because you're not doing yourself any favors, because that's primarily where you're breathing from. I know it's hard to breathe in the mask. I know it's difficult. Take your time. Give yourself some time. Don't try to be so active, but make sure you take care of yourself. Keep the mask on. If you got a glove up, but you got to keep yourself safe. You got to keep your family safe, and we got to keep each other safe. And, you know, each one teach one. And so that we can make it through this, because we are the ones that are unfortunately hit the hardest. We are the ones that are not listening. We are the ones, again, that I'm shocked about the parties that are happening in the community. I'm like, you got injured because you fell and you were at a party. I'm like, what were you doing at a party? You know,
Right.
this is not the time and the place. And, you know, it's good that the weather's changing. Maybe that'll keep a few more people indoors, but continue to protect yourself, because now the cases are coming back on the rise. They're not quite where they were before at its peak, but they're coming back up, and we're seeing some more cases. So I encourage everyone to stay safe. You know, what we know about it is airborne and it's spread through the air, and that's known. So we got to protect ourselves. You know, whatever you can do, whatever you can get your hands on. You don't have to get the best of the best stuff that's going to be expensive, that, you know, that healthcare workers need, that are dealing with this stuff day in and day out. And again, even for me in the emergency room, I'm the one right on the front lines. When I walk into a room, I gotta prepare myself and be gloved and gowned, because anybody with any vague symptoms, you could come in saying you have a headache and you got COVID. And it's just that easy. And if I take that for granted and walk in, and I'm trying to just protect myself, and, you know, so I bid everyone to really do the job and do their due diligence of really taking care of yourself. If you got to wear a scarf, whatever protection you can do without it just being just your regular face, just being out in the open, whatever it is that you can do, protect and safeguard yourselves, protect and safeguard your family, cover your nose when you're breathing, because that's the way the particles get in. If someone coughs and they're, you know, within a certain distance, or cough into the air and you're all of a sudden inhaling the particles, you know, we just got to be careful. We got to be safe. We got to be diligent, and we cannot afford another round 2 to hit us the way it did, because it's just detrimental. And this is coming from a physician who works in it day in and day out. So, you know, and I'm in it, knee deep in it, and what I've seen has been devastating. Nothing like I was never prepared for this in my community. So, you know, so I'm again just telling everybody to do what's right for them. Be safe. Don't listen to the hype until they're able to really squash it, until you hear other medical professionals saying, this, you are now safe to do X, Y, and Z. Until you really get to that space, I would say, hey, listen, guys and gals, you really got to stay safe, protect yourself, protect your loved ones. And you know, we got to weather the storm, because that's what it is. It's a storm. And the flu's right around the corner. The flu's coming too.
Oh boy.
So.
Oh boy. Thank you, doctor.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
We'll have to do it again.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, we will. Like one of the brothers. Felt just like a fella.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do it again, and you know, come up and, you know, just let me know, and we'll arrange it. We'll make it happen. All right.
Sir. Yeah, hell yeah.
Dr. Perotte, thank you again, Dr. Cuba Perotte.
No problem.
Doc, before next time we have you on, I'ma still find out what the FACEP. I'm gonna know what that means.
He's a fellow. He's a fellow.
He's a fellow of the American Academy of Emergency Physicians. And when you become, there's levels to this. It's like you become a doctor, you start to go into your field, and you're board certified in your field. And then you take it to the next level of your board certification, and you become a fellow of the academia that's associated with that, which is another level of certification. So you reach sort of the top of all certifications within your field, and you're recognized for that. So
there's levels to this, man.
Hey, that's called a flex right there. That's called a flex right there. That's what I'm talking
about. We all doing the work. We're all doing the work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care, Doc.
Appreciate it.
All right. Hey, that was just. Hey, we had another amazing show.
Yes, sir.
Man, definitely
brain overload.
Yes,
Brain
yes,
overload.
yes. So
Brain overload.
Yes, man. We appreciate the information that he gave us, the knowledge. Telling us to be aware, and just a reminder of how important it is. To protect yourself during this time, during this COVID time. Don't take it lightly.
Right.
So we'll be back in a couple weeks. Katie, you had something you wanted to share, right?
Hey, I just want to give a shout out to William Lenny Sankofa, William Smith, Sound and Design, Sankofa Sound and Design. He's been putting together a lot of our ads and our promotions. So I wanted to give a big shout out to the work that he's doing. Look him up, hit him up for any type of podcast or any type of video graphic design that you need. Sankofa Sound and Design. That's my man, Will Smith. There it is.
Hey, I had one too, man. I wanted to definitely give Supinda a shout out, man, from Shining Moments Events, man. She is a beast at what she does, man. We appreciate her. She's a fan of the show, a friend of all of ours. And additionally to Dr. Schubert. So we, if you have an event coming up, reach out to Zapinda at shiningmomentsevents.com or give her a call. The phone number is on the bottom at our ticker. We'll be back in a couple weeks. We got this election coming up. So we are encouraging everyone to get out and vote. Take your elders, get them out and vote. And we'll be back in a couple weeks. We may have a couple pop-up shows. We have this what is it? The election, the presidential, what is get that Green Bay thing out of here, man.
We got the vice presidential debate coming up.
Hey, Linda.
We about to see Kamala. We about to see Kamala at her finest.
Yes,
we got Supreme Court nomination stuff coming up. So we got a lot.
Hey, I got to share one thing before we get off. When Dr. Perotte jumped on, he mentioned he mentioned one of the first things he mentioned to us was, drinking and, smoking and everything. I had to put my glass of wine down, man. I ain't taking
I didn't. My Tito's is going strong.
Hey, I felt guilty, man. I said, hold up, let me just stop for a second.
Everything in moderation.
There goes Zudi right there. Hey, Zudi.
Hey, so
what's up, Zoo?
These are just our thoughts in the fellas. If you can go to our fan page on Facebook, Just Our Thoughts with the Fellas. Go to our YouTube page, Just Our Thoughts with the Fellas. Like, subscribe. Check our content out on our page. Share it with your friends, and we appreciate you. We'll be back. These are Just Our Thoughts with the Fellas.
Let's go. Let's go.